Hey, good morning, my travelers. It's now 5 after the hour of 6 a.m. in the big monster city.
Come on! Let's get pumped!
Not drinking any fucking Merlot! What can I say? The camera loves me.
Shall we begin?
After you, Junior.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Logged It. We got a good show. We got classic comedies, talking about them. Cameron Redshaw will be here in about half an hour, so he will be on the show tonight. But while we're waiting, we got two great panelists. We got Mr. Joseph Olivas, current movie Warzone Team's Code champion. Joseph, you excited to talk about some classic comedies? You are the person here who actually requested to be on the show instead of me asking people. So how are you feeling about this topic?
Okay, I think. I feel like I've seen of the many comedies that I've tried watching over the past few years, classic era comedies, I feel like appeal more to me than more recent comedies. So I'm excited to see how this goes. Hopefully,
he at least goes, haha, haha. The classic comedies. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, he already chimed in there. Paul, how are you feeling about this?
I'm excited. Yeah, I mean, I was asked to be on the show, I think, like yesterday. So, we're here. We're doing it. No, I'm excited because this is a thing that I think outside of maybe a couple, certain director or two and certain actors, we don't get to talk about a ton of these too often. So I think it'll be fun to explore some kind of, untapped territory in terms of the classic comedies.
I'll be honest, I thought I asked you like way earlier, and then I was like, wait, maybe I didn't ask Paul, because I asked Zach like earlier.
We look very similar, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
So easy mistake.
But no. So I'll just jump into it first with the, general letterbox fun stuff, starting with what was your favorite movie you logged this week on Letterboxd? Joseph, we'll start with you. What was your favorite movie you logged?
So my favorite movie that I logged this week was a rewatch. I've been trying to get through several movies that I may or may not include on my top 100 list, favorite films of all time. And one of the movies that I rewatched was Stand By Me, which I rewatched and is so great. It's so impressive that a movie this short, for being under 90 minutes, is able to capture so much depth to the characters, but also a feeling of nostalgia for this time period, which I feel like doesn't go overly schmaltzy like Forrest Gump or other movies like that. But I think that this movie does I feel like it's a great time capsule type movie that has some really great characters and very interesting dynamics. And I really, really enjoyed watching this again.
Yeah, Stand By Me is fantastic. I don't know a film. There are a few others, but this is one of the few films that I think truly captures the way kids actually talk to each other. I feel like not a lot of films really come close. Just kind of the simple, complicated simpleness of the conversations. The debate about Goofy, right? That is something that just now we talk about it all the time, but I think that's the type of thing that kids think about. What is Goofy? And I love that. I love the conversations in this movie. Performances are obviously great. I think Kiefer Sutherland is one of the great movie bullies. But the whole film is fantastic, and that it does cover this dark subject matter, but it has this levity to it. Paul, thoughts on Stand By Me?
Yeah, I mean, I think for one thing, it lost the goddamn poll to be a movie for this month by one vote.
Still mad about that.
That happened.
I'm not, because this was the first time a movie of mine a movie I picked, as opposed to a movie Tim picked, actually won the poll. So I'm a little less mad about that.
But yeah, I think depends on the day you ask me. I think this or The Shining are my favorite Stephen King adaptations. It sort of depends. I think it does have it captures this great spirit of the nostalgia of childhood and the friends that as the movie sort of goes on to show, the friends that you might not necessarily stay close friends with, but still have an impact on your life. River Phoenix is just one of those actors. I think every time I see him in something, I'm impressed by the different like sort of color I see from him as an actor. It's like he has so many kind of, again, like things in his arsenal. And this is one of, I think, his best, maybe not his best, but one of his best performances. And I think the thing that unbalances this movie a little bit is he's almost too good, because he's almost like blowing the other kid actors off the screen in a way. Like, they're not bad, but I think he's so compelling that I just always want to pay attention to his character, and that's the thing I care about the most. But I love the way the framing device of the movie too. The way that it's kind of him writing this letter, and it's him as an adult and reflecting on those periods. It gives that tinge of melancholy, I think, that adds in with the kind of fun that they're having when they're kids. And there's a great scene where he almost gets hit by the train, and like that stuff is really fun. And it just, again, like the feeling of being in summer and you're just with your friends and you just can go out and anything can happen. It captures that, I think, in a really specific and unique way. And honestly, a lot of the 80s kids/teen movies, I think, don't hold up as well, I think, over time. But this is the one that, for me, still stands the test of time.
I see what you did there.
No pun intended.
I haven't been logging a whole lot of movies this week, but one I have logged is a rewatch. I'll do another rewatch. I rewatched Thor Ragnarok recently because my dad had been like, "Hey, I want to finally watch Thor Ragnarok." I didn't know Jeff Gold, because he apparently just found out that Jeff Goldblum was in the movie, and my dad's like a big Jeff Goldblum fan.
Wow.
So it was like, I really want to watch that now. And I was like, okay, we can rewatch Thor Ragnarok. And that movie is just still so fun, in my opinion. I think that is my favorite MCU movie. I just think all the stuff on Sakaar is just so, like, unique, and the visual style, and that comes down to YTV's humor. But I think the movie also has some really, like, they're not focused on a ton, but some nice little dramatic moments. Like, I love when I think we get into the actual psychology of the Hulk, not Bruce Banner, but the actual Hulk in this movie a little bit. And I think they actually build him as a character. I think this is easily the best use of the Hulk in any movie, of actually kind of understanding the dichotomy between Bruce and the Hulk, which I think is really interesting. But just some of the comedy moments, like Korg is just a shining bright spot. The revolution has begun. The whole movie's great. Paul, thoughts on Thor Ragnarok?
Yeah, I when it first came out, I think that was the peak of me sort of just being tired with like the sort of MCU-ness of everything, and I think I've grown to like it more over time. There's still some things that I don't necessarily love about the movie, but there are some moments that I think are really special. I think that like the visual, just like the image of when the immigrant song hits and when Thor is arriving with the lightning and you see the light kind of tracing across the sky and it just all of a sudden lights everything up. Like there's stuff like that I think like you won't find in many other comic book movies, and I think that it's fun in that way. Again, like I think some of the ways that it sort of like takes the piss out of itself and like is like not willing to take it like its characters like at sort of face value, like in this, in the sacrifice for comedy, I think sometimes that leaves a little of the dramatic stakes behind, and then when it tries to have dramatic stakes, it feels uneven a little bit. But I still like the movie quite a bit overall, and it's just one that I think is easy to watch and come back to. It's not one that I think is like an incredible movie or anything, but I think it's like very rewatchable. So,
Joseph?
Yeah, I agree that the movie has this really great visual style. I also felt like on my last rewatch, I felt like it's a lot stronger in the comedic aspects than the dramatic aspects. It feels like it's sometimes shrugging that it has stakes in the movie, which doesn't make it hold up all that great in my opinion, but I still enjoy the movie. It's one of the it's definitely the best of the 3 Thor movies for me. And
yeah, that's
I have a soft spot for the first one, but anyway,
fair.
But yeah,
I have a soft spot for another one that I won't get into.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I enjoy it.
Yeah. So, Paul, your favorite movie you logged this week?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a bunch of rewatches and stuff that I did, and I generally, when I come on the show, don't like to talk too much about rewatches because it's like movies that I already love. So like I could talk about like Starman, or could talk about Quiz Show or something like that, which are movies I really love. But a movie I want to highlight that I watched that I really loved is this movie called Plus One. This is a romantic comedy with Maya Erskine, who helped create Pen 15, and Jack Quaid, who's like the son of Dennis Quaid. And essentially, there are these 2 college friends who, it's wedding season, and there's people in their mid to late 20s probably know, like, around the time of the year, you get a bunch of wedding invites oftentimes, and they agree to be each other's plus ones to the weddings. And then there's sort of like a will they, won't they, like is there like something going on here, or is it just them helping each other kind of find themselves? And I think like Maya Erskine, especially, who's like the main, the female lead in this, is really incredible and like gives one of my favorite, I think, romantic comedy performances that I've seen in a long, long time. And her character just feels so rooted in something real in a way that like does not detract from the comedy, but still gives the movie more heft, I think, than you would otherwise have, and has it sort of holds together really well. I'd really, really love to come back to this and see how much it holds up, but I would think really well. But in general, I was just really charmed by her character and the moment-to-moment stuff in the movie. And I just think it's one of those romantic comedies. It's on Hulu if anyone's in North America. It's one of those things that kind of like pass people by. But I think it's really great and like become one of my favorite romantic comedies, and something that I just kind of threw on a whim. But I really ended up loving it. I would recommend people to see.
That's fair. I had vaguely heard of this movie, and then I had seen the poster on Letterboxd. Probably when you reviewed it is probably when I just saw it. And I took a look at the poster and said, oh, that does not look like a movie on the poster that would get 4 stars. It looks like a direct-to-DVD movie. Fair. But apparently it's good. Joseph, have you seen Plus One?
I have not.
That's fair. Then we'll just hop right over to your least favorite movie you logged this week. We'll circle back around to Joseph. Joseph, what crap you watch this week?
So this year, I've been doing a watch challenge throughout the year, 2021, the featured presentation trivia challenge, not the featured presentation watch challenge. We are given 52 tasks for a movie to fulfill each of these tasks. So at least 52 first-time watches to check out all those categories. I was able to check off 2 categories this past week. One of them was watch a shark movie. I watched The Meg, which was fine. Then I watched a movie watch a movie with verses in the title. The movie I picked was Mega Shark versus Giant Octopus. It's not good. It's cheap looking. There are several reshots of the Mega Shark and Giant Octopus being used over and over again. It felt to me like at least half of them were just repeated over and over again, because it shows like maybe they're trying to catch the human characters. And of course, with a title like this, there's a lot of focus on the human characters and not enough Mega Shark versus Giant Octopus. One of my favorite reviews that I've read about this movie is the movie is about 90 minutes, and the total fighting between the Giant Octopus and Mega Shark is 2 minutes. And that's all you need to know about it. So, yeah.
This was direct to DVD, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That I assume. Yeah. I feel like I know everything I need to know about this movie from the title. Lucas Schilbach, noted.
Damn it! You stole my talking point. Of course, fucking Lucas has seen it.
Yeah, I'll let you bring it up. Sorry.
No, I mean that's the most Lucas-ass thing I've ever heard. Is like, I could watch any of these, acclaimed films from these great directors, or I could watch 2 giant sea animals, and one of them has to be a shark, or he won't watch it. I think that's pretty notable. But of course, Lucas has watched this, and the fact that Joseph watched this. Of literally all the movies on planet Earth that have verses in the title was an interesting choice, I think.
That I've not seen. Again,
that is an interesting choice on your part. But it's a movie it's one of those movies that I think sounds more fun in theory than it does in practice, and I think that's pretty common with a lot of these sort of big monster movies.
Joseph, have you watched Mitchell's versus the Machines this year?
I haven't.
Oh, what do you know?
So you had the choice. You thought, I could watch Mega Shark versus Giant Octopus or Mitchell's versus the Machines, and you chose Mega Shark.
The Machines were too small. But if they were a little bigger, then maybe he would have given it a shot.
Maybe. Okay. Well, we'll go to the least favorite movie I watched this week. I'd been watching a few of the Friday 13th movies, If you know, last week I picked the first one as the worst movie I watched that week.
Trash takes exposed.
I mean, I don't think that's good. I hadn't watched the second one yet at that point, though. But I'm not picking the second one either. I'm picking part 3, which is of the 3 I have seen, easily the worst of the 3, also the most enjoyable of the 3. So do with that what you will. There's a really annoying character in this movie named Shelly. Easily the worst thing in the movie. The movie itself is much more laughably bad, whereas the first 2 are a little more boring bad, but they have less actively bad elements. But man, the stuff with the biker gang is really cheesy. There's some fun bad scenes in part 3, but there's also some annoying bad scenes in part 3. But there's nothing boring bad, so that's the one thing I'll say about it. It's positive. Joseph, I know you studied horror icons semi-recently. Did you get to this garbage fire?
Just real quickly, dang it, I didn't realize it was on Netflix. I wish I did Mitchell's versus the Machines. Otherwise, I might have ended up using it for the versus category. But anyway, Friday the 13th was the one I watched the least of. I just don't like them as much as I felt like there was a lot more creativity in terms of the dreams landscape in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, and at least some building of suspense in the Halloween movies. The Friday the 13th.
Anyone is going to argue that Friday the 13th isn't the worst of those 3 franchises.
I think a lot of people would argue that. People that actually watch these movies would argue that, I think. But, it's fine.
Most people who have watched these movies will tell you that one's the worst, but that's fair, Paul. Paul, your thoughts on part 3? Tim Brzakala says one is the worst of the 3.
Tim Brzakala says a lot of things that are interesting, I think, in terms of movie opinions. I will just say that Friday is my favorite horror franchise, but this is weirdly the one in the entire series that I have not watched. I watched them in sort of this weird random order where I had found some VHS stuff and I would rent random ones from Blockbuster. And I haven't gone through and watched them all sort of in order at any point. I'll just be like, these ones I really like, so I'll come back to these. This one I've always heard was sort of just okay. I really love the Friday movies in general, but for some reason this one doesn't necessarily call to me as much. I think it doesn't have the stuff that I like the most in the other franchises from the people that I've talked to and understand about it. I'll probably watch it at some point. This Halloween I might just watch all of them, honestly, during October. But this is the one of the entire series that I actually haven't seen.
Fair enough. So now we go to Paul. What was your least favorite movie you liked this week?
Yeah, so my least favorite movie was a movie I wanted to watch. I made a deal with Scott Harvey where I would watch a movie that he was fond of, and he watched Your Name, and I was strapped with the movie Band Slam. A movie that, in theory, I sort of want. Again, it's the kind of thing I want to like. It's music focused, and it's sort of this coming of age of this awkward kid. And the movie, honestly, especially for the first half, is pretty fun, and the band playing music sequences are really a good time. And then the movie does this weird attempt to have dramatic stakes in the most fucking bizarre and strange way, and the set of sequences and there's certain reveals about characters, and then characters behave in ways that are just so confusing that I'm what is happening? Why is this trying to turn into terms of endearment? I mean, not literally, but it's this is really trying to be a serious, weepy melodrama, and that stuff just does not work. There's some stuff I did like in the movie. I think all the sequences where they're actually playing music are fun. And there's a scene where the main kid visits CBGB, which is a cool kind of sequence. But in general, the last before the last 10 minutes, the 30 minutes that precede that are just utter nonsense and characters behaving in the most insane, contrived way that feels written by a 15-year-old. And it's a movie, again, that I wanted to like, and there's so many things about it that are things I'm interested in, but I just think it's a total misfire, I think, in that last act, and it really kind of ruins itself, and it had set itself up to be kind of this fun if light coming of age movie. It's very similar to Rocket Science, if anyone's seen that. It's got a lot of the super awkward main character kid energy to it. And there's a girl who comes in and is super cool, but is friends with him for undetermined reasons, really. but yeah, it's not like a horrible movie, but it's a movie that I just like really like fumbles the bag in a way that was like truly bizarre, I thought.
I have not seen this film. Holtzman likes this movie. I don't think I need to watch this. Joseph, you watch Band Slam? Is that what you do on a Friday night?
I watched like 15 minutes of Band Slam when I was a kid, and I stopped watching it.
Sounds like the right description.
I'm sure it's what 15 minutes. I hope it's like a random 15 minutes, not even the beginning.
It was the beginning.
Fast forward.
Would have been better if it was like the middle 15 minutes, the exact middle. Okay, so we're just moving right along here. We'll go to what movie did you add to your watch list that you're most excited about? Joseph, do you have one ready? If not, we can go to me. But if you got one, go ahead.
Watch list? What watch list?
Okay, I'll wait for you to get one ready. I recently added a Humphrey Bogart movie called The Enforcer. I don't know too much about it, but I've been wanting to watch more Zero Mostel movies because I really like him, and I know he's in it, and like Bogart and Mostel. That seems fun. I know nothing about the film, but really, Zero Mostel. I like him in things, so I'm excited to watch it. Joseph, do you have one ready?
I don't use the watch list feature on Letterboxd.
I'm saying I'll go to. I'm saying
just pick something you're planning on watching. Yeah. This guy is like, fuck the format of the show. Enforcer, interesting movie.
We don't talk about the other watch.
It's interesting, but not like an incredible movie. So the one that I added to my watch list is kind of a sad reason. So director named Aichi Yamamoto recently passed away. He did a lot of these really interesting art house animated films from Japan in the 70s and 80s, and they're sort of, the understood masterpiece is this film called The Belladonna of Sadness, which is very harrowing and like not a movie that's easy to watch, especially just from looking at the description of it, even just on Letterboxd. But I've always heard it's like a very beautiful and an expressive kind of movie that's unlike sort of other animated movies that sort of exist. And I think it would be cool to watch that. It's on Criterion Channel, so I figured I would give it a shot. And I plan on watching that sometime in the next couple of weeks. So it's a thing. It's got a great poster. It's got a unique art style. It's something that I was like, oh, this like sounds like I would be really interested in. I've always sort of been aware of it, but I want to actually watch it now that the director has passed away.
Joseph, do you have a movie, or are you going to be no fun?
All right. Just for the show, I'll add one. One of the other challenges in this 52-week watch challenge is watch a movie that is based off a book that is over 100 years old. And one movie that I've been meaning to watch that I haven't yet because the rest of my family has for some reason, but not me. But I have been wanting to watch it. Sense and Sensibility from 1995 from the Jane Austen novel of the same name with Alan Rickman, Hugh Grant, and Emma Thompson and Kate Winslet.
All right. I watched that one off the movies. Not too bad. But we'll get into now the main meat and potatoes of the show, our classic comedy topics. Paul, we'll start with you. What's your first pick for classic comedy?
Oh, geez. Throwing it to me first. This is a lot of pressure. I will say I sort of have an idea of what I think other people are going to pick in this category, and I think that sort of influences a little bit of how I want to go about it. But I'll go with what I think is probably my favorite classic comedy of all time, and is a director that I love a lot. And it's not someone that I think a lot of people have seen their movies, except for Dylan Van Tine, I know. And I'm going to go with Jacques Tati's Playtime from 1967. This is like one of the most sort of ambitious films made in this era, where Jacques Tati crafted an entire city and built an entire city to have this set and to have this like film fully realized. And when I love the physical slapstick French comedy of the 50s and 60s in this era, and I think this is sort of like the peak of that. And I love the way in this movie that there are a lot of times like 3 jokes happening at the same time, and every time you watch it, you'll pick up on something new, where there will be something in the background and then some character in the foreground and then a conversation happening, maybe even that are not necessarily related. It's kind of chaotic, but it's like this beautiful symphony of different jokes, and it's different types of humor too, where it's like the main character, who is played by Jacques Tati, is very into like physical humor, where it's very like, again, it's like very similar to kind of like a Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin almost sort of thing, where it, like you don't even need sound to really get keyed into it, but then there's all this intricate design of the rest of the stuff, and I just think like that stuff is really, really hilarious, and it's also just such a smartly made movie. I think like the way that it uses space and the way that it uses its characters and its world and all that stuff is just really funny. It's one of those movies that I recommend to people a lot because I think not a lot of people have necessarily seen it. But Playtime, I think, is like a total masterpiece, one of my favorite movies, period, of all time. And yeah, a classic comedy in a different sort of vein than I think than a lot of the ones that we'll end up talking about on this episode.
Joseph, I feel like if anyone's seen Playtime, it maybe is you.
So I've not seen Playtime, but I've seen another Jacques Tati movie, Monsieur Hulot's Holiday. And that movie has a lot of things that I like about it. And there are other parts that I felt bored by it. So it was kind of like a mixed bag for me.
I think it's his weakest movie, to be honest. The Monsieur Hulot's Holiday. I think that's his weakest one.
That gives me a little more hope for this movie. But yeah, I have heard good things about Jacques Tati's movies, but that's the only one that I've seen. But sure, I'll try to check this out when the opportunity allows.
I've been meaning to watch Playtime, but like trivia is never gives me enough time to watch movies. But yeah, we'll go to my pick next. I'm gonna go with I think that my favorite subgenre of classic comedy is the classic epic comedy, the comedies that feel truly like the epics of the time. And I'm going with one that I think is like one of the true epic comedies of that era. It's a Mad, 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 Mad Club. I think that this is just one of the most grand comedies ever made. Like, of course, like just the cast list, you got everybody in there, you know, Buddy Hackett, Spencer Tracy, Mickey Rooney. I love Ethel Merman in this. I think she's the funniest thing in the movie, especially her working off of Milton Berle. It's just hilarious. And then all the cameos in this movie are just great. Don Knotts is probably my favorite of the cameos, but there's a lot of good ones. And just the scale of this movie is fantastic. Like, there are just some really great creative comedic set pieces, like Sid Caesar and his wife trying to get out of the hardware store, or the big ending with the ladder or the fire truck. I think there are just so many great comedic set pieces in this movie, and the arguing about splitting up the money is amazing. I just love this film and all the directions it goes, and everybody double crossing each other. It's just one of my all-time favorite comedies, period. And I think the scale, and that's definitely helped by Stanley Kramer. Paul, thoughts on It's a Mad, 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 Mad World?
Yeah, so I was like, last night I was thinking of a movie to watch, and I was like, Boatman will probably have this on his list, so I should probably rewatch this because it's been a little bit. I've always liked this movie, but not loved it. I think it just is really long, and like I do get kind of disinterested in certain portions of the movie, and it picks back up again in certain points too. But it just is so like there's just too much stuff for me to really hang on to all of it. Peter Falk is like my favorite part of anything Peter Falk is in, basically, and I think he's my favorite part of this too. I think he's really fucking funny as a cab driver. Just the way like his facial expressions are never not funny to me, even if he's not even trying to be funny. There's just something about Peter Falk that like he looks like a used salami or something. That he's just incredible. And there are certain parts I like. I think I recently watched The Mummy, and the scene where she knocks over the bookcases feels totally influenced by the scene in this movie where they knocked over like the paint canisters in the store. But it's a fun movie. It's one that like I don't watch super often, just again because it is like a big investment. If I'm going to watch something that long, I want it to be something that I'm like really into. But I think it's fun, and like I love how ambitious it is, and like I wish there were kind of more like big movies kind of like going for it like this, and sort of the vein of a Rat Race kind of thing.
Comedy genre, which I feel like is the genre that
I think Rat Race is like the last one that's like this, to be honest.
And even then, Rat Race doesn't quite have this scale to it.
Yeah, I really thought this was going to be Around the World in 80 Days. I know that's Boatman's like one of his other favorites.
No. But joining us, we got Mr. Cameron.
Hello. Hi.
Hi. Okay, so Red Shaw, I'll let you. Oh wait, no, I haven't gotten to just yet, but I'll get your thoughts on It's a Mad World.
Oh yeah, I've seen this movie a couple times. I just watched it recently, for no particular reason, but yeah, I actually really like this movie. I liked it even more on the second watch. The length doesn't bother me at all. I think it's a lot of great physical comedy. And yeah, I think it's really fun. I've never pictured Peter Falk as a salami before, but that's in my head now, so that's good.
Paul, have you watched The In-Laws, the original?
Yes, I think I watched it like 2 weeks ago. Actually,
oh, fair, that
it was on TCM, and I was like, "Oh, interesting," and I watched it, and it was like fun.
Yeah.
It's not. I think there's other ones that I liked more of him, but I liked it. Yeah.
Joseph, your thoughts on It's a Mad World?
It's fine. It's long. It's not always funny, and that kind of makes it a drag sometimes for me. I felt like the Three Stooges and Buster Keaton were showing up for no reason whatsoever, and yeah, it's
like the Avengers of comedy. This movie's like the Avengers of comedy, you know?
Yeah.
You're a fun guy.
I don't want to rain on everybody's parade since everybody seems to have a much more positive opinion on it than I do.
Fair enough. We'll go to Doc's pick. Right, Sean? We'll go to you.
Are we going to rewind and get his whole letterbox thing, or are we just going to skip that?
No, we're just going to.
Okay.
There.
Was that the first one? Have any other?
I had playtime. I had playtime.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, my first pick will surprise 0 people. I'll pick Some Like It Hot.
Yes.
If I had to bet, Boat almost already had it queued up.
I was
Hoot! But yeah, this is my favorite comedy of all time. I love this movie so much. It also has a special place in my heart. This was the first Billy Wilder movie I ever saw, and we know where that led. But I just find this movie so funny, and I just think the premise of this movie, like anyone who I've talked to who hadn't heard of this movie, mainly people outside of this community, of course, that I've just kind of given the elevator pitch of what this movie's about, and they're immediately like, "That sounds hilarious." Just because it's just such a great concept from the get-go, how it's all set up. And I just think, even though he won his Oscar before this movie, I think this really made Jack Lemmon a star, especially a comedic star. I just think he is so incredible in this movie. His laugh just makes me laugh in this movie. Just all of that, and not to take anything away from Tony Curtis or Marilyn Monroe. I think they're both great as well. Marilyn Monroe is like, she just had this touch with her acting. It's like, even though she was like apparently a mess to deal with on set, like she just, something about her performance just works in this. And yeah, I just find this so funny, and I don't think I've ever laughed harder than I did at the final line in this movie. So there's that.
Yeah, you shouted out Jack Lemmon. I'm going to shout out
Jack Lemmon.
Jack Lemmon. I'm going to shout out Tony Curtis, because Tony Curtis, I think, is the funniest part of this movie, even funnier than Jack Lemmon. Don't get me wrong, I love Jack Lemmon in this, but I think the way Tony Curtis like perfectly plays like all 3 of the parts he has to play, like the Shell Oil guy he's basically doing a Cary Grant impression, which is
nobody talks like that.
It's amazing. I think it's so funny as that. I think Josephine is just so funny, and I think he's just naturally funny in this. I love, but it's about the way they work off each other, and any scene where they're both in the room is just amazing. The side characters who play the gangsters are very fun. This whole everything just going on in this movie. I love Joey Brown. playing Osgood Feeling. He's just such a likable guy, despite the fact he's kind of a creep. You just kind of want to pat him on the head. Some Like It Hot is, I just think, such a funny movie. It's incredible. Paul, thoughts on Some Like It Hot?
Yeah, this is a weird thing where I had seen this after knowing a lot about it, like including the final line, which kind of is a bummer. I would have loved to go and not expecting that and sort of like being like a nice surprise at the end. But this is a movie that I think there's not really a part of the movie that ever gets boring or uninteresting. And I think it never loses momentum, which is important in comedy, I think, because when you're following this trajectory of the movie, you want it to stay. Because if there's periods where they're just doing something like separate that doesn't feel connected or funny, I think it can get lost a little bit. So I think like it's effective in that way. And Tony Curtis, like Boatman kind of said, he's like Humphrey Bogart in that I love to hear him talk. So anytime he's giving dialogue in a movie, I think it's entertaining. And I think it says a lot about this movie that I think Boatman, shares this with me too, is I don't really like liar revealed stuff really in movies, but I think this is one of the ones that actually pulls it off in a way that doesn't feel like you know exactly how this is going to go the entire time. And it's like so played out and we're just drawing it out and it's actually like getting laughs out of those situations and not forcing it into like a, there's like kind of these dumb fake outs that you'll see at those kind of movies. So the way to like sort of inverse that is really brilliant. And yeah, Marilyn Monroe is great. Honestly, whenever like an actress is referred to as like hard to work with, I'm like kind of skeptical now because of like the way that Hollywood treats women. So that's, I don't even know if that's necessarily fully true, to be honest. She's hilarious though. And she's always like magnetic in anything. Even the shitty movie she's in, she's really magnetic in. So always love watching her on screen. Yeah, Something Like It Hot's great. Not really a bad word to say about it.
Joseph?
This was the third Billy Wilder movie that I watched, and this was also the movie this was my favorite first time watch of last year, thanks to this guy who put it on the Full Metal list. Thank you, Kaleb, because that movie made me laugh and smile for 2 hours, making me forget about the COVID pandemic, and that was such a huge thing for me. Yes, the number of surprises and comic timing and moments gave me such joy watching a movie like this. And I'm trying to think of other things to add that other people haven't, but yeah, I love the train scene where everyone's just inviting themselves to the to the compartment with Daphne's place, and everything just goes out of control there.
Yeah.
Oh, and the birthday cake. I didn't mention the birthday cake scene. That scene is amazing too.
Yeah. So now we go over to Joseph's pick. Joseph, your first pick.
So, there are a number of movies that I'm hoping get picked eventually, but just in case there's not enough room for some lesser known movies, I did want to bring up a movie that I think is really funny, but I don't think enough people have seen. There's this 1942 film called To Be or Not to Be that is a parody of the how do I describe it? It's a movie that pokes fun at World War II while being made in World War II, but also being a very funny movie that wasn't attempting to be shocking for the sake of comedy. So I think that it builds a lot of its humor on the characters and the situations there, and it holds up really well, I think. It centers around a theater crew that are trying to... I don't want to spoil too much about it, but it's about a theater crew who's trying to... A theater crew gets involved in trying to stop the Nazis in Germany or in Poland, and there are a lot of comedic moments where characters try to impersonate other people. There's this one very funny scene involving a character who looks like Hitler, and if you see the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's just, it's a culmination of all the moments that happen in the movie that I think are really, really great. That if you ever get a chance to see it, check out this version, the 1942 version. I have not seen the Mel Brooks one though yet, but Kirk says that it's apparently a great movie, but I haven't seen it. So yeah, but this one is really great, I think.
I have not seen this one. Cameron, have you seen this one?
I haven't. Ernst Lubitsch is a director I've wanted to get into for a long time. I've seen a couple of his movies, and this is like the next biggest one that I haven't seen.
Why would you want to get into Ernst Lubitsch movies? What
weird
reason would you, Cameron?
I don't know.
More Ernst Lubitsch movies?
I could not tell you at all. But, yeah,
so many inside jokes on this show.
No, that's just because Lubitsch worked with Billy Wilder a lot.
Billy Wilder literally had a saying written in his office that said, "What would Lubitsch do?" Lubitsch was his idol, so I feel.
I thought it was. I mean, look, I knew. I just thought you were talking about something.
Oh, okay.
No, it was literally just a reference.
Oh, sorry.
Anyway, I have seen this. I actually don't love this movie. I think to me, the story of Carole Lombard's career is like she's amazing, and her male leads can't keep up in the movies. Like same thing for me is like My Man Godfrey. I think like she is great, and I think the male lead is always just a little behind, and that's the stuff that doesn't quite hit for me. I think there is a better classic era movie where there's a thing of a character that looks like Hitler, and I don't think it'll be brought up on the show, but that's another Billy Wilder movie. But I think that this movie is like pretty good and pretty funny, but some parts I just don't think the comedy's like that funny, and I don't think like dramatically it works. I like the movie is like pretty good, but it never hits a level of being like super memorable or great for me. And it was kind of a bummer because I was going to this like thinking, oh, this really seems like my kind of movie. But yeah, it just didn't totally work for me. It's like it's pretty good, but I don't find it super memorable.
Fair, humor is pretty subjective, so like some things hit for people, some things don't. So like, yeah.
All right. So now we go back to Paul. Paul, your second pick.
It's tough because being first now, I don't like. It's hard to gauge what other people are going to take, and
I'll just say this now in case it impacts picks. Because we only have 4 people, you and Joseph get 3 picks total. So.
Oh wow, interesting.
Because we need 10 for the.
Gotcha. Yeah, awesome. Well, that actually helps a lot. That frees me up to sort of be more, take what I sort of want to, and then sort of save something for later. I am going to take His Girl Friday, which is my favorite of the Cary Grant screwball comedies. I think. As much as I think the dynamic's interesting, his other ones, I think here, the fact that these characters have that past history sort of gives it more loaded context. And I think like the way that he is like steamrolling all the conversations in this movie is hilarious. Like the fact that he's like, she's trying to say stuff and he's like not even like listening to what she's saying. Very kind of similar to Katharine Hepburn, I guess, to him and bringing a baby. But the scene where like he takes the phone call at the restaurant, I think is hilarious. And like the way that he's like totally not even listening to what the guy's saying. And the fact that he's duping these people into believing this sort of thing, and then they become embroiled in this whole scandal, I think is really funny. But I just think like Rosalind Russell is like the perfect counterpart to Cary Grant, and she brings a different kind of energy. I think it's not as like overpowering, I think, as something like someone like Katharine Hepburn is. But I love the way that she takes these sort of digs at him in these very subtle ways, and their dynamic's great. And I just think this movie is like absolutely hilarious, and it's charming. But I think this stuff for me is this is a movie where the comedy like really just like sits above everything else, and it's moment to moment, like every scene is funny to me, and I could watch this movie like any day of the week. It's just it's a perfect movie. His Girl Friday.
This is just one of my favorite romantic comedies of all time. I think Rosalind Russell just kills it in this movie. I think the way she and Grant work off each other is just fantastic, and the scene where Burns thinks that the one old guy is Rosalind Russell's new husband. He's just like, why don't you mind your own business then? Incredible. This film is great. I think this is the best adaptation of The Front Page. Sorry, Billy Wilder. There have been other people that have said that there are other better versions.
Louis Milestone, back in my day.
Surprisingly, not this one. But I think His Girl Friday just rocks. This is like, I think this, Some Like It Hot are very much like gateway classics, I think, and they're classics that you can show to people who say they hate classic movies. And this is like how you start getting them into them. Red Shell, go to you.
Yeah. So as you alluded to, some people think other versions of the front page are better. I'm not one of those people. I think this is the best adaptation of it. I think making Hildy Johnson a female character, it just makes the dynamic so much more interesting to me. Where like Burns feels like, I don't know, he feels less like his intentions are bad, and I don't know, it just adds something to Hildy's. It just adds to the whole story and the whole dynamic. And I just think it's so funny. The pacing of the jokes are just so quick in this movie. Like the comedy's so fast and interrupting each other.
Like one joke won't even be done, and the next one will have already started.
And that's like exactly what Howard Hawks was trying to do. He was like having them in rehearsals purposely interrupt each other and all that stuff. And I just think it works so well for the characters and for the comedy. It's just so funny, and just like the jokes per minute is like better than most comedies I've ever seen. So
by the way, if you buy the Criterion, the front page from 9:30,
it comes
on the disc. So it's cool.
Yeah, I really like this movie. I've seen it only once. I feel like I really should rewatch it because like there are so many like jokes that they throw in, and it's so quick that I am sure that if I rewatch, there are going to be so many that I missed. But yeah, I've been meaning to rewatch it. I am not of the opinion that there's one better version than the front page because it's the only one that I've seen. But I really, really dug this rapid fire type of dialogue. I just need to rewatch it because I do want to catch more out of it because of all that it's saying. I love that meme moment where Walter is just like, "Get out." It just looks like a perfect meme moment that can be used for other things.
Oh yeah, that GIF has been used
many
times.
Fantastic. Now that was Paul's pick, so we'll go to my next pick. Everybody got to talk about his Girl Friday, right? Okay, we'll go to my next pick. My next pick, I'm staying with the same actor. I'm going with a different Cary Grant comedy. I think you kind of know what I'm picking. I'm going with October's coming up. Arsenic and Old Lace. Give yourself an excuse to rewatch it. The best Halloween movie, period. This movie is so much fun. At least it's my favorite Halloween movie. This movie is so much fun. I love some of the spookier atmospheres going on in this movie. And just the chaotic energy going around, like with Teddy Roosevelt climbing up the stairs of Panama, and Josephine Hull is so funny in this movie, and like the bit parts of like Peter Lorre is really great. He's basically doing the Peter Lorre thing, but who doesn't love Peter Lorre? And when he's tied up and the cop starts reading him his screenplay is like one of, to me, the funniest scenes of the movie. But like this is just a movie where it's what I call like a spinning plate movie, where there's just so much going on. And you've got like all these plates in the air and you're just waiting for them to fall. And that's what this movie is. And I just absolutely love it. I think this is maybe my second favorite performance from Cary Grant. I think Suspicion is always going to be my favorite performance of his, but he's so funny in this movie. Paul, your thoughts on Arsenic and Old Lace?
Let's get this out of the way. I haven't seen this. Probably watched this 6th October. It's one that I've always been like somewhat curious about, but like for whatever reason is not what's like I ever rushed out to see. Maybe it's because you guys talk about it all the goddamn time now.
I'm sorry.
No, I do want to see it, and I'm curious about it. The pitch seems so sweaty and like it seems like so complicated. The whole plot line. I don't know. I haven't seen it, but I'm excited to watch it, and I will take off my headphones so that I don't get spoiled for anything, so you guys can talk about it freely. And I would.
Okay, so sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I also love this movie. I love Frank Capra, and yeah, this movie's just fantastic. It's a great premise. I like Cary Grant's performance a whole lot. Wasn't he like embarrassed of this performance for that reason? I don't know why. Because I think he's great. I love him just being like one step behind the situation at all times, and just slowly being drip fed the information, just like the complete dismay at every turn. And Josephine Hull is just over here like, oh, we're just doing what we think is best. And all that sort of stuff. I just think it's great. Josephine Hull should have been in more movies. I think she's wonderful.
She should.
In this and Harvey. I think she's excellent in both. But yeah.
She won an Oscar for it, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Joseph. We're not done. Sorry, Paul. We haven't gotten to Joseph yet.
Okay, Paul, I was gonna say one of my favorite minor spoiler in the movie, but one of my favorite parts in the movie is when Jonathan and Dr. Einstein are discussing how many murders Jonathan technically has committed. Like, you didn't kill that one; he died of pneumonia. But I didn't. He wouldn't have died of pneumonia had I not shot him. That counts. No, it doesn't. And then there's like they're trying to like boast how many people they've killed to compare themselves to his two aunts in that movie, and it's kind of creepy but also hilarious at the same time. Yeah, there's a part of me when I watched this. There was a part of me I was thinking, you know what? I could see the Coen brothers remaking this movie in the future. But then I saw the reception of The Lady Killers, which I haven't seen. But for that also being a classic era comedy that apparently a lot of people didn't like, I'm like, maybe not. Well, I don't know. We'll see what happens. They probably won't remake, but it was something that made me think. I could see this being remade by them. It has a lot of dark humor that would just appeal to them for making. But anyway, I do really love this movie. I think Frank Capra is a really, really talented director and really shows his range with treating dark comedy as opposed to some of his more heartfelt type movies. Like,
okay. Well, we'll get into your next pick, Joseph.
Okay.
I just realized I accidentally skipped Red Shots, so sorry, guys.
Sorry.
Are we going to me now? Or
we're going.
Okay, sounds good. Well, to avoid picking another Billy Wilder movie or another Frank Capra movie, I wanted to give this gentleman a shout out with my favorite film of his. I'm going to go with City Lights. Yes. So I don't think many people know this. I absolutely love Charlie Chaplin. This is my favorite movie of his. I think Modern Times might be a little bit funnier of a movie, but I think this movie is absolutely wonderful. It's got a lot of heart, which I actually wasn't expecting. I think his relationship with the flower girl is like actually really endearing and really sweet. And it's also just got a lot of really great comedic segments. The boxing segment is like one of my favorite scenes like ever. And also just the whole subplot with the drunk millionaire who's like best friends with the tramp when he's drunk, but then when he's sober, he has no recollection of any of those events ever happening. I think that's a really fun dynamic. And yeah, just the whole movie, I just think it's really funny, really sweet, and I just have a great time watching it. So.
Yeah, I have not seen City Lights yet. I really want to. I've been meaning to. I need to get into more Chaplin. That's just one of my big like classic blind spots that I want to watch more Charlie Chaplin. Weirdly enough, the only Charlie Chaplin movie I've seen is The Circus, which is actually a pretty funny movie that I
it's great.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like that's one of his like less famous ones. I want to watch more though. Joseph, thoughts on City Lights?
Yeah, I saw this movie for the first time this year. Charlie Chaplin is hit or miss for me. I appreciate a lot of his comedic art and his slapstick in his movies, but they don't always work for me. I think they tend to drag out a little bit. I think the slapstick in The Great Dictator especially is kind of overdone and drags on a little bit. But that said, I was really surprised by how much I really enjoyed this movie. This is the most I've laughed in a Charlie Chaplin movie, so that has that going for it. I did like it more than Modern Times, and I also liked it more than The Circus. But yeah, he's not my favorite silent era actor though, and I don't know if I'll get to him later. But yeah, that's what I have to say about City Lights.
Right. Paul?
Son of a bitch stole my line. Also not my silent guy comedian of choice. If we're doing Charlie Chaplin corner though, watch 1 a.m., which is basically, it's only like half an hour. It's just a guy comes home drunk and it's him trying to get into bed and is hilarious. It's like 25 minutes of pure insanity. And it's like my favorite Charlie Chaplin thing probably. I like I like City Lights. It's just like I think there are certain moments that I don't know. I just sort of lose interest in like the boxing scene is fun, but I think it doesn't totally come together for me in a way that like some Modern Times really the one feature film of his that I really love. I like it. It's like just not sort of totally in my kind of wheelhouse.
Yeah. So we will next go to Joseph.
Okay. So looking at other options that we have available, another actor that there's another actor that I think needs to be brought up. That there's one movie of his that me and my family were introduced to a few years ago, and we really, really enjoyed it. It's from Danny Kaye, a 1955 film called The Court Jester. And it's basically a spoof of Robin Hood movies, but it's also a very funny movie of Danny Kaye trying to infiltrate the castle of a tyrant who has tried to claim the throne by wiping out the entire royal family, and he's trying to help the true last surviving heir get back on the throne. And his antics and his ability to do so many tongue twisters and so quickly with seemingly so much ease is so funny, but also really entertaining to watch. If you ever get a chance to see it, I would recommend it. It also has Angela Lansbury in one of her earlier roles, and also Basil Rathbone in one of his later roles. I think they are very, very good in the movie as well.
I haven't seen the film. I've vaguely heard of it, but that's about it. Paul?
Yeah, so I've seen a clip of this in film school, the whole like pellet, the poison in the vessel and the whatever that whole thing.
Yes.
I've seen that clip. I've honestly not really seen many Danny Kaye period. I think like White Christmas and Secret Life of Walter Mitty is like the only things I've ever seen him in. So he's not someone I'm super familiar with, but the premise like always sounded fun. I just don't think it's ever been super available to my knowledge, at least. So it's just one of those things that I never like took the extra effort to like seek out necessarily.
Fair. It was on Amazon Prime last I checked.
Okay.
Doc, have you seen this?
I haven't. Danny Kaye, I've only seen one of his movies, and is none of the big ones.
Oh.
So
which one?
It was
Mary Andrew.
Mary Andrew. I.L. Diamond written movie. So yeah, I need to get into more of his stuff because I've always wanted to watch White Christmas and this movie and A Song Is Born. I also wanted to watch. It's like I think it's a musical remake of Ball of Fire, which is a movie I really like. So I've wanted to get into his stuff, but I just haven't yet. So.
Well, next we will go back over to Paul for his third and final pick.
This is a lot of pressure because I feel like there's a lot of people that I want to get into this in some way. I'll hope that Joseph was talking about a certain person, and hopefully he'll bring up one of the movies. So I am gonna go with. Oh my god, this is so tough. I'm gonna go with Alexander McKendrick's The Lady Killers. Obviously, the film that's literally made by the Coen brothers. I love the different cast of characters in this and how they all have these very specific roles. But the reason this movie really works, I think, and the thing that's best about it is Katie Johnson is Mrs. Wilberforce, the woman who these group of criminals stays with. And I think like all the comedy, the fact that it revolves around her and is based around her is hilarious. There's these recurring bits where obviously they have to like pretend to play music, and they have, they're about to commit a robbery and they pretend to be living with this woman in their house, and they pretend to be a traveling band. And they're just the way that certain characters sort of ends up the setup is hilarious. Again, like I don't want to spoil too much of this movie because a lot of the particulars, I think a lot of people haven't necessarily seen this, but the physical comedy and like in relation to this, like the rooms that they're in, I think especially is funny, where it's like one character's in another room, another's in another room, and they have to try to communicate certain things is really funny. And then the way that like there is this conflict within the criminals is really, really hilarious. So this movie, I just watched because it was leaving Criterion randomly. So I was like, sure, I'll give it a shot. And I actually really ended up really loving it. And kind of made me bummed that Alexander McKendrick made like 2 amazing movies and then like vanished. So,
Joseph is about to shout out the man in the white suit, calling it now.
Yes.
But yeah, I have not seen The Lady Killers. I watched the Lavender Hill Mob, And I really liked that, and it made me want to watch The Lady Killers because Alec Guinness is so funny in that.
Yeah, I think it's my favorite Ealing comedy, but a lot of those are very good though. Like Boatman.
Red Shaw, have you seen Lady Killers?
I haven't, and as much as I've heard the name, The Lady Killers, I never actually really knew what it was about until like now, and now I want to watch this yesterday. So,
Sure. Joseph?
I've only seen the man in the white suit from the Ealing era movies that Alec Guinness had, but it makes me want to watch the rest of the movies. I still haven't seen this one, but I do want to see it. I am upset that one of the film classes that I took in college had Kind Hearts and Coronets on the syllabus, but then things changed, and then that got pushed out, so we never got to it. And I was like, darn it, I really wanted to see it. I still haven't seen it, but yeah, I want to get to it.
That's fair. So we go to Joseph to bring us home.
Here's hoping. It's the right actor that Paul's hoping for. This is, of all the silent era comedies, this one is my favorite one. Buster Keaton's Sherlock Jr.
Dang it! I was like, it's gonna be Keaton. I wrote down the general. It's gonna be that one.
The general is pretty good too. No, but I think Sherlock Jr. is a lot funnier. I think the number of gags and stunts that Buster Keaton does in this movie are insane. Jackie Chan has spoken of him as one of his major influences in his stunt work, and it's just really impressive to see how many things he can do in such a 45-minute runtime. I'm kind of impressed that this is qualified in the Letterboxd top 250 despite being under an hour, but so does IMDb, so like I guess it's okay. But anyway, yes, this is my Sherlock Jr. is Buster Keaton trying to be a detective and also trying to clear his name because he's accused of a crime that he did not commit. And it's basically him trying to solve this kind of crime, but also there's a long sequence of him dreaming about being that successful detective. And the last 15 minutes are insane because of a huge chase scene and also the amount of stunts that he does. There's some great scenes with this with this car, but also the number of things that he goes through is really, really great. I think it's a very, very entertaining, very tight 45-minute comedy.
That's fair. I have not seen this. I really want to now. Paul?
Yeah, so I think this is the best Keaton movie. I think for me, the general might be a little funnier actually, and I think like some of the the size of the sort of the gags and that are really impressive. But yeah, the scene that Joseph mentioned, that the sort of chase, and there's a dream sequence too in this movie that is like absolutely just like fucking hilarious, and like the design and like the way that he interacts with his environment, I think is so special and unlike anyone else. And there's a lot of stories of this era about how Chaplin had like this sort of big machine behind him and all these guys helping him write jokes, and Keaton was like this one-man wrecking crew, absolute monster who would just do all this stuff on his own and like risk his life like 5 times per movie. This guy was absolutely out of his mind. And you can just see that in all of his movies, how much effort and how much love he puts into it, and the fact that it's like not him trying to be too clever, it's just him really going for it in a way that's really fun. Yeah, this is a movie that I think people would. It's a great time, and again, like people love 90-minute movies because they're so short. This is half of that. And it's fucking great. Yeah, I think like Keaton is like one of the great comedians and one of the great like action stars, honestly, that we've ever had. And this movie is, I think, probably his best movie.
Red Shaw, have you seen this?
I have seen this. I honestly probably underrated it when I first saw it because I really like this movie. It's really inventive concept. I think Buster Keaton might be like the greatest stunt performer maybe ever. I think he's incredible. Like if we were talking about the general, I think it's just crazy that he just used he did stunts with just a real train because they couldn't do anything else. They couldn't do the effects for it, so you're just like, it's just a real train that we're gonna use. So it's this is great. A lot of fun. I should probably rewatch it. I think I was a little tired the first time I watched it, and that's probably why I underrated it a little. But yeah, great pick.
All right, so that concludes it for the main portion of the show. Now, before we go, just to talk about the movie of the month, Midnight Run. The last week, it is the movie of the month. So, and we've got all first-time panelists for this month, some first-time panelists overall, but first time for this month at the very least. So, everybody gets to talk about Midnight Run. Joseph, we'll start with you.
I'm still upset that Stand By Me did not win the poll, so I watched Stand By Me in protest of this. And then I watched Midnight Run.
Okay, I was
really enjoyed this.
Wow, that was good. That was good. Honestly, a rare punchline.
No, I was surprised by how much I enjoyed this movie. The buddy dynamic that Charles Grodin, rest in peace, has with Robert De Niro is so funny and so yeah, I thought it was really funny. The number of antics that they go through trying to evade the police, but also evade the other bounty hunters, rival bounty hunters. I did not know Yaphet Kotto was in this movie. It made me sad, but also kind of happy to see another movie with him. Also, R.I.P. To him. Yeah, it's a really enjoyable movie, I think. Maybe I haven't seen Beverly Hills Cop yet, but it's my favorite Martin Brest movie that I've seen. I'd probably give it 4 out of 5 stars.
I mean, yeah, take out this and Beverly Hills Cop. You just got a lot of competition for your favorite Martin Brest movie.
Hey.
What, Paul? No,
Son
finish
of a
that
Woman
thought.
fans?
Son of a Woman? Really?
No, that's not what I was saying.
No. So, Paul, we'll go to you because you notably despise this movie and did not tell me to watch it originally and kind of start the trend of people liking it in this community.
Listen, when I like a movie, it's kind of, and I just don't want everyone to be like, this is the new movie. It's our thing. And it's like a whole bit. That's kind of why I didn't vote for the poll, to be honest. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. I just think that Dynamic Kingdom is so perfect. The fucking scene where when they're on the train and Charles Grodin's talking about like, hey, I saw a couple of chickens I want to take a pass at back there. They're good looking chickens, huh? That shit that happened because Robert De Niro was apparently so serious on set that Charles Grodin tried like for 2 hours to break him, and that was the thing that finally made him laugh, is incredible to me.
That's interesting.
I actually think this is one of De Niro's best performances, not just for the fact that he's doing comedy, something that's kind of outside his wheelhouse, but I think like the dramatic stuff with his daughter actually hits and like actually works, and like also the stuff with him at the end with his connection with the Duke, I think is perfect. All the stuff with Joey Pants where he's just calling on the phone and he's like, we got the Duke. All that stuff is fucking amazing. The like Moron number 1 and Moron number 2 thing with like Dennis Farina and the bumbling dumbasses, and John Amos is the other guy who's like chasing after them. Is just I think Marvin, I think is his name. Yeah, Yaphet Kotto is funny too because he's playing it so deathly serious. Like he is really playing like he's in a 70s detective movie as fucking Alonzo Mosley. And then he comes in and this guy is just like playing pranks on him, wearing these stupid ass sunglasses and pretending to be him in like some diner. Like, who is this guy? This scene where the Duke has like his fear of flying moment where he like refuses to get on the airplane. That's like incredible. There's really not a moment in this movie I don't love, and I feel like I come back to it all the time, and it just becomes funnier and better with time. And you'll notice sort of small moments. It's crazy how violent it is too. Like, I'm pretty sure John Amos' character like gets knocked out like 6 times. He might have like CTE after this movie, but it's wild. I mean, you know, Serrano's got the discs. I yell that shit sometimes just randomly for no reason. And yeah, it's one of my favorite movies. I think it's great. But Going in Style is good. Okay, Martin Brest's first movie, Going in Style, is good. Just saying. Watch it.
Fair. Red Shot.
Yeah, I also really like this movie. I don't know why the dynamic was like different than I expected. Maybe because it was compared to a certain dynamic of people in this community beforehand. But I actually thought it was a little different. No, in a good way though. But for some reason, just because of that comparison, I was expecting Charles Grodin's character to be like a little more neurotic, like a little more. I love you both. But he has like a much more like calm, contained chaos to him that I like really enjoyed. Like he has oh god, I'm hearing an echo. Just the stuff that he does and the stuff that he says, but he seems so contained during all of it because he's like, it's because he's like so calm and like so at ease and in touch with his own morality that like he just seems like fully in control of himself at all times. And I think that's a really does something special for their dynamic. Like one of them is like really self-serious, but like is really kind of insecure about himself, and then the other one like seems like he's going to be the wimpy one, but he's so sure of himself that it's like it kind of it helps the other one just become a better person. I think that's really cool. And the scene with the daughter like almost made me cry. I was surprised. Like I thought that was like such a heartfelt, warm scene. Like when they first see each other, and it's just like there's just this such a quiet moment when they're just like seeing each other for the first time in 9 years. It's like, is it 9 years? I think. It's just such a special moment. Yeah, I think this is really fun. I'll probably like it even more on rewatch. At the moment, I think I'll give it a 4 out of 5. But
yeah. I didn't say this is a 5 out of 5 for me. This is like one of my all-time favorite movies.
Yeah, I wanted to. I forgot to bring up this moment, but for some reason, I laughed a lot when De Niro, Jack calls Joe Pantoliano, and Joe Pantoliano asks him, "Where are you?" For some reason, the way that he says, "I'm in Boise, Idaho," made me laugh a lot because he's trying to throw off the agents, and then he's like, "I'm on to you guys." Like, they're just random moments that I liked a lot.
He said it. He said 4.
I said 4.
Oh, okay.
I want to rewatch it. It might go up, but I think it's a really
also. I said
4.
John Amos. I meant John Ashton. John Amos.
I also was going to ask.
Very different.
I also was going to ask. He does not look black in that movie.
No.
What did he do?
John Ashton.
Yeah.
Anyway, with that, we will head out of there. Just a reminder, next week we got spy movies. Week after that, we got film duos. That could be duos of characters in movies, actors and directors, actresses and directors, actors and actresses, actors and actors, actresses and actresses, whatever you want to define film duos as. Could be anything. If you want the film duo to be a robot and also another robot and make the movie Robots, sure, why not? Week after that, we got sci-fi epics because Dune's coming out. And I'm getting less and less excited everything I hear about Dune. Then we've got movies that take more than one watch, and that'll be interesting. So if you want to be on, be sure to let either myself or Timberkala know. But with that being said, thank you to our panelists. Thank you to everyone for watching. This has been Multiplex Vlogged In. I'm Kaleb Boatman. Have a good one.
In case I don't see you. Good afternoon, good evening, good